If you're watching this, it's because you want to know how workflows work in HighLevel. So I'm not going to waste your time with an intro. We're going to jump right in. To get to your workflows or automations, to create or edit an automation or workflow, go to your Automations tab right here on the left hand in your main menu. From here, if you have no automations, you will be greeted with a screen that has some automation graphics, possibly some templates, and you'll be prompted to create your first automation. Either way, to create an automation, the first thing that I would suggest to people is make sure that if you have a lot of different types of automations that you will be building, you use folders. For this specific example, we have very minimal automations, and they're all related to either lead gen or low ticket offers, pretty much all lead gen at this point. So I don't have any folders, but if I did start doing higher ticket courses, community stuff, low ticket offers, mid ticket offers, and a traditional marketing funnel, I would be putting these all into their each folder. So I'd have a lead gen folder, a low ticket folder, a mid ticket folder, a high ticket folder. Reason being, if you have a lot of different programs and a lot of different workflows, you want to make sure you can go and find the one that you need to check or edit ASAP. Easiest way to do that is to stay organized from the get-go. So if you're planning to use a lot of different styles of automations, make sure that you start with creating folders. But let's jump into how to actually create a workflow and how it works. Pretty straightforward. You will click the blue Create Workflow button, and you can go ahead and select from a template or start from scratch. There are some great templates here in HighLevel, and they can be really useful, so definitely go ahead and check these out. Like if you want to do something like set up a customer appointment automation, like post follow-up, you can make a lot of that build much faster by using these different recipes and just editing them. But if you are brand new, I do suggest that you build stuff from scratch, at least from the get-go, because that's going to be the easiest way to gain an actual understanding of how this stuff works. Then you can go in and edit those recipes and actually know and understand what you're doing. A big problem I see is people jump in, they try to use the templates without a core understanding of how workflows work, and then they just break it and mess it up, and it never works. So we're going to go ahead and click Create Workflow and start from scratch. Now it will open up our nice workflow editor right here. The first thing I always recommend you do is name your workflow, because once you get into the build, it can be really easy to forget the name. Trust me, I know from experience, so drill it into your head that you're going to name your workflow first. The naming convention that you use is really up to you. Personally, the naming convention that I will typically use, so let's say this was for my free lead generation snapshot, I would do free lead gen SS, so free lead gen snapshot, so telling me what it is, what the product is, what the opt-in is, and then I'll do dash, and I'll do opt-in. Right, so this is letting me know when I'm looking in my folder or in my list of all of my different automations, if I need to find my free lead gen snapshot, I can see the first thing is the name, and then let's say I have multiple different workflows attached to this, I can find that this is my opt-in workflow, and that's the one I want to edit right now. So for this use case, we'll just go with creating a workflow that someone fills out a form to get a free lead magnet. This is a very, very common use case. So the first thing you would need to have done if you are going to do a form fill trigger is create a form. I've got another video that I'll have pop up on how you can create forms. I'll also link it in the description down below. But the first thing we always need to add is our trigger. The trigger is pretty self-explanatory. When this action happens, the workflow begins. So in this case, our trigger would be a form fill, because we are sending someone to a landing page to give us their name and email to receive our free lead gen snapshot, which you can find in the link in the description, by the way. Now, what we're going to do is search for form, but as you can see, there are a ton of different triggers. You can choose the Discover tab to easily discover different integrations, top installed, recently added, etc. I recommend staying away from this if you're a beginner and just going with these default GHL triggers, but you can see all of the different things that you can have begin a workflow. So what I love about HighLevel is what I've found is if you can imagine it, you can pretty much build it for the most part within reason. So we're going to go ahead for this and do that a form has been submitted. Now what we're going to do is add a filter, and we're going to choose form is, and then we'll choose our form, in this case lead gen snapshot opt-in. So now anytime somebody fills out that form, they will begin this workflow. So my first thing I always do is add tags. So to add an action after the trigger is triggered, you will click this blue plus sign. What I recommend on pretty much any workflow is that the first thing you always do is add a contact tag. So you can search tag here and then select add contact tag. And if you have tags, they'll show up here, or you can just create a tag. So you could do lead gen SS. I already have one of these, but you could just click add new tag and it'll go ahead and add the tag. Again, the naming convention is up to you. Tagging, however, is extremely important for proper segmentation and organization, moving people through workflows. Let's say you have a subscription and someone cancels and you want to move them into a different workflow that has a follow-up specifically for canceled subscriptions. You can do that all by giving people specific tags based on specific actions and triggering workflows based on a tag being added. So let's say I wanted this workflow to be when they filled out the form, they got sent an email with access, and I could give them that proper tag, but then I also wanted to have a new workflow trigger when someone is given this tag. I could then create a new workflow and change my trigger to tag added and select that tag. But either way, go in, add in your tags. My naming convention is typically pretty much the same way I named this. It's going to be either the category, so interest or lead, or paying member, dash whatever it is that they opted into. So this is a freebie, so I would do lead dash free lead gen snapshot. If this was a paid program, I would do paying member dash lead gen snapshot. I also do master tags. So every lead, no matter what they opted into, gets a lead dash master list, and every paying member, regardless of what they purchased, gets a paying member dash master list. That way, if I ever need to email or reach out to either of those groups as a whole, I can do it easily with one tag. So go in, add your tag. I also like to do interest tags. So in this case, I would do funnels, I would do GHL, just in case, again, I want to reach out with an offer or a promo or a value add to all of my people that have an interest in funnels, that have an interest in GHL. I can easily do that. I recommend going heavier with the tagging because you can always never use a tag, and that's pretty much no big deal. But if you ever find yourself regretting that you didn't add a tag and you're hundreds of contacts in, there's not much you can go about to do that except manually add that tag to all of those contacts. So we'll go in, we'll add our tags, and any of these action names and even trigger names can be edited. So if you do want to say something like form filled out, then the name of the form, you can, or tags added, and then list the tags, you can. Next thing that we would do in this case is we would send somebody the link to actually install their snapshot. So in this case, I would send them an email. So I would search email, send email. From name, this is going to be who that the email is from, so likely your name. From email, again, the email it's from. The subject line, you can choose from any templates you've created, or you can go in and write an email here. You can add attachments, and if you want to make it say the person's name in either the body or the subject line, you can always click on any of these tag icons. These are custom values. So if you wanted to say hi name, you could say hi, click on custom value, and at the very top it's kind of cut off, but that will say contact. Make sure you always select contact and not user. User is you, the internal user. So in this case we'd go to contact and we could select first name, and now it will say hi first name, and then you can go on with your message. You also can just copy and paste this, and you don't need to select it from here. You just need to make sure you have the proper brackets and the proper custom value. Then you can go ahead and write your email. You could put in any links. You could add attachments, send a test email, etc. Click save whenever you're done. And that's the basics of workflows. You have a trigger, and then you have actions. Now, these workflows can get much more complex, but since this is a beginner-focused video, what I would suggest you do is just go ahead and create some mock or test funnels, and then create some workflows. I do have my entire lead gen snapshot that you can get for free linked down below on my site. That snapshot comes with a ton of templates for lead gen funnels, pre-built forms, and even pre-built automations. So you could go in, see those real life automations, and then just try to replicate those and then use those pre-built forms and funnels for testing, which will eliminate a lot of the work. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them down below. You can access the lead gen snapshot as well as all my other free stuff in the link in the description. My email's down there as well if you want to reach out. Thanks for watching. Hope you found it valuable. I'll see you next time. Peace.